Welcome to the 14-day challenge. Today is day one. I'm super excited. This is going to blow your mind. I've got 14 days of amazing guests, and we're going to be covering everything when it comes to running your business more successfully in little bite-sized chunks. So every day you're going to take away one small action piece you can do for that day. And today we're talking about peak performance, and we have Alan Lazarus. And we're going to be talking about performance and why it's so important to make sure that you are at your peak performance all the time. So Alan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I do not take it lightly to speak into anyone's life, quite frankly. I started listening to podcasts 9 years ago, and they really helped me reorient my life in a more positive direction. So I don't take that lightly at all. Also, if I'm the first day of the 14-day challenge, things that start well, it's the Mario Kart booster you need to get going. So I'm honored. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's great to have you because I read up a little bit about your background, and you've got quite a story behind you on your journey to get here. And now you've got 21 staff, I understand. So I think that you are a great example of someone who has taken everything that they've got and taken it to the next level. So I'd love to know more about it. And I think my listeners and my viewers would love to know how it is possible. Do you want to just give us just a really quick insight into your story of how you came to be here?
Very, very quick, because this is a challenge for me. The hour-long interviews, I can usually take 10 minutes on stories, so I'm only going to have a couple minutes here. So I often joke and say I'm hoping to hit puberty at 36. I'm actually 35, but I look 12, which really helps me in my business career, by the way. So I started off really tough. I'm going to give the very, 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 very condensed version. I didn't understand any of this growing up, but now in my 30s, I started doing therapy, rewatching the movie of my life. I really have started to understand what happened and why it happened and my reaction to it and all stuff. So father passed away when I was 2, stepfather from age 3 to 14. I had an older sister, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom when my father passed away. Father was 28 when he passed away, and it was in a car accident. My stepfather left at 14, and it was kind of bootstrap my way through high school and college because he took most of the income with him. And the school that I went to was $50,000 a year. I'm a computer engineer, and that was my dream, was to go to that school. And it was 50 grand a year back then. So I got all the scholarships and financial aid I could. I got my computer engineering degree. I got my master's in business. And then I went into the tech companies. And in the 21st century, computer engineers are very sought after. So I did very, 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 very well. And then eventually in my mid 20s, I got in my own car accident. And it was 26. And it was physically, we were okay, but it really shattered me in terms of my metaphorical phoenix burning down from the ashes, existential quarter life crisis type of thing. I realize now, shortest possible version, I was an achiever, hyperachiever. I ran away from my pain through achievement. I know a lot of people can relate. I was broke when my stepdad left, so I thought being wealthy would answer my problems. Didn't. So I was super successful, almost 200 grand a year in my early 20s, to basically deeply unfulfilled though. Then after the car accident, I went all in on fulfillment and personal development instead of achievement. And I went past broke. And so the shortest possible version is I used to be successful and unfulfilled, which really sucked. Then I went all the way past broke, and I was fulfilled, super fulfilled and fit, but broke, which also kind of sucked, just not as much. And then now I'm very grateful 9 years later after that car accident to be in a place where not only do I have a huge team and big company now, and again, big is relative. Big for a podcast, small for a company, I guess. And now I'm both successful and fulfilled. And now who I am, my business is aligned with who I am. Whereas in the past, it was either career at the expense of self or all self at the expense of success. And so now my career is very aligned with who I am. And that's literally why I'm here. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that people who have been through such a journey like that, they've got so much more to share. And I know you say you don't want to speak for other people, but I think you've got a lot to share when it comes to especially performance. And today I really wanted to touch on that because over the next 14 days, I want people to understand that I think you said it before we actually got onto the recording, that it does take a lot of work. Like there's a lot involved with getting your business off the ground. And I think a lot of people either feel like they are not capable, that they feel like they try something and then they go, oh my God, I'm just not smart enough and I'm not going to be able to do it. or they just never tried in the first place. So yeah, I think let's talk about performance, how it should actually, what our mindset should be around performance and how we can actually make ourselves better.
Well, the first thing to realize as so I'm writing a book right now called The Unsexy Fundamentals. And the first thing to realize is how much you believe in yourself. We don't check in. So a lot of type A achievers have really high belief, but they don't know it. And they have no idea. Like, so for me, when I was a kid, it was going to be lawyer, politician, president. I genuinely considered that. Or engineer, MBA, hero, Fortune 50 CEO like Steve Jobs, my hero at the time, not my hero anymore. But that was like a genuine thought process.
Mm.
And what I didn't realize as a kid is I had so much self-belief. A lot of people don't realize that they don't actually have a lot of self-belief, because most people who don't have self-belief are either pretending that they do, because we all live in this sort of little comfort zone between struggle and success, where you're afraid that all of you is not enough, or you're afraid that all of you is too much. I'm definitely the second one. Okay. So I didn't struggle with self-doubt much. I feel like success always came pretty easy to me. It was the relationships that never came easy to me. And so I think there's two types of courage. There's competence courage and there's social courage. I was a social coward, but competence courage, apply to the job, apply to the school, do the resume, the cover letter, the LinkedIn, send the email. Like, that was all easy for me. But socially, in my personal life, I was an absolute coward. I was a chameleon. I wouldn't stand up to people. I got bullied. And so now I realize that I was so courageous in achievement, but so cowardly in my relationships. So everyone out there listening, to bring this full circle for performance, some people are really good at relationships. It's their natural genius zone. They're good at networking and building relationships, and they're likable and relatable, and people like them naturally, and they fit in easily. That was never me.
You're doing a good job now, so
Thank you. I appreciate it. But truth be told, I've exercised every day. I used to never say this because I was too much of a coward, quite frankly, but I've exercised every day for 2.25 years. And I'm a type A hardcore achiever who believes in himself a lot. So other people would get really insecure around me. And so I would trigger people, and then they would trigger me and my abandonment issues. And so I would shrink. I would shrink who I am. So to make this practical for performance, the first thing everyone needs to understand is where you're at on this. Are you afraid that all of you is not enough, not smart enough, not good enough, not good looking enough, not capable enough? That, again, too scared to say this in the past, that's not me. I don't feel not enough. That doesn't resonate. Okay. Self-doubt isn't the issue. What is the issue is this other one where I'm afraid that all of me is too much. So anyone out there listening already who struggles with self-doubt already thinks I'm arrogant. So if I were to go give a speech, my business partner Kevin and I, we go give speeches and we do them together, which is wild. He is afraid he won't add value. I'm not concerned about that at all. I know I'll change the way you think. I know I can change your life. I know that I know what I'm talking about. I'm not afraid to be found out. But if you said you have to add a ton of value and change everyone's life, he'd say, I don't know, man. But if I said, Kev, you got to get everyone there to laugh and like you, he'd be like, no problem. Let's rock. I'm the opposite. If you said you got to go give a speech in front of 1,000 people and change their life and build them bigger, better, brighter future, I would say, I'm your guy. Let's do it. But if you said everyone in that room has to like me, I would say that is literally impossible. Okay, so you're afraid that all of you is too little or too much. You're either afraid of failure or you're afraid of success. The type A achievers typically are not afraid of failure. They just fail forever until they're successful. And then that doesn't land for people who are afraid of failure. And so hopefully that's a good way to start.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And listening to that, I'm trying to work out where I fit into that, because I think that, yeah, I'm sort of on both sides of that. And I can hear.
It's a percentage. So you have 1% more. My guess is you're more afraid of success than you are of failure. But it's both. It's probably like 70-30.
Yeah, so I no, because I think I've got a lot of that, like where I'm not afraid of, so like my friends are like, oh my God, you've got no fears at all.
Yeah.
But no, I also, you mean that, but underneath I'm scared of it. No, I don't. Well, I haven't been so far, so.
Are you afraid that all of you is too much and you shrink yourself?
I do sometimes.
yeah, then that's the side you're on. So you're more afraid of success than failure.
Okay. So yeah.
Most of us are afraid. You know how it's not so, it's belonging. Think about it, right? The bell curve. If you're on the far end of a statistical bell curve, you're in the minority, and that's fearful. It's fearful to be on the minority. Like when I said I don't struggle with self doubt, how many people are like, you're either full of it or F you for that, right?
No.
But it is the truth. I rarely struggle with self doubt. What I do struggle with is the doubt of whether or not I'm going to be abandoned, or whether or not I'm too much, or whether or not I'm a pain in the butt, or whether or not I'm going to drive you out of my life because I'm so achievement oriented.
Yeah. That's the over analytical side. I get that.
Yeah.
Over analyzing it. Yeah. So, how can people actually practice peak performance in their own lives?
Well, the first thing is understanding the self, which is what we just did. So, number one is understand the self. The way I see it is a GPS. The GPS needs three things to get to the goal. It needs, number one, an accurate current location, which is self awareness. Okay. Then it needs a goal, a destination, accurate destination address. And it needs to be the SMART goal thing, specific, measurable, all that. Then it needs to know the data of the terrain. That's the part that I think most people don't have. What I've found, I coach 26 people right now on my roster. The youngest is 16. The oldest is 63. One is brand new, starting a YouTube channel. 16. I wish I had a coach at 16, and business coach. And then the oldest has been in business for decades. So all over the world, all New Zealand, like all over the world. So I have this insight into the commonalities that people struggle with and the differences. And so what I've found is that if your GPS, remember the old Garmin's back in the day? You and I are old enough to remember this, where you'd have this GPS that wasn't updated and you'd be like, wait, that's not a road. And then you'd drive into a lake. Obviously you didn't, but this thing could drive you off a cliff if you're not careful because it doesn't have the updated data. That's the way I think most people are in life. They just don't have accurate data. So you need accurate data on three things. You need accurate data on self. You need to understand yourself at the deepest level. You need accurate data about other people, human beings, neuroscience, psychology, human condition, physiology. And then you need accurate data on the economy, the world, how it works and why it works that way. I've found in my coaching, there are these amazing, self-aware, heart-driven, holistic human beings who don't win in the economy. What? And then there's these egg-headed engineers that I went to school with that are multimillionaires, and they're like emotional children, but they crush it in business. I was like, no, no, no. You have professionally developed people and personally developed people. You have the inner work and you have the external work. You do need both. Very few people have both, because if what you wanted was what you needed, you'd already have it. So everyone out there watching or listening, if you resonate deeply with me, you probably are externally driven. You probably understand the economy and business. You probably have systems and processes and automations. If I trigger you, you most likely deeply need to learn the economy, how it works, why it works that way. Business finance, I call it STEMBIF, science, technology, engineering, business finance, mathematics. Those are the things that win in the economy in the 21st century. But in your personal life, those don't work at all. Those are detrimental to your personal life. My relationships for 30 years were struggle bus because I just didn't understand. When someone says, hey, do I look fat in this? And my brain goes, yes, at level 6, you can't say that. I'm an engineer, right? So I didn't realize the modalities of thinking and how no one else thinks in numbers and rationality. I used to think everyone was irrational and lazy. I'm hyper rational and super disciplined. Got it. But who goes around thinking that? So self-awareness, others' awareness, and then the how-to of the external world. And those are the things that you have to learn. Unfortunately, most of us are more inner or outer. We're either more professional or more personal. And usually, you need both if you want to be successful and fulfilled. If you just want to be successful, just learn the external world. You don't have to do much of the inner stuff. But if you want to be fulfilled, you have to focus on the inner world.
Yeah, that's fantastic. There's a lot to unpack there. I think that's fantastic. So, I guess taking that. So, what can people actually do? Is there sort of a step-by-step process that you can recommend that people could just take away from today, saying, "Okay, I can do these couple of things to make. And I think that people listening, if they're in a situation where they're here going, okay, I want 14 days of help to help my business, they're probably in a situation where their business is not as successful as they want it to be. So what would be something that they could do?
Well, you're at the epicenter of your business. So again, I'm going to bring it back to the individual, whoever's the leader or the business owner or the CEO or whatever it is. The practical takeaway, rather than this esoteric stuff, is the state, prove, and self-assign. There's a way to build self-belief. To me, there's two things in life that matter most. It's self-belief and self-worth. Self-belief is I can build the castle. Self-worth is I deserve to live here and I'm going to honor and protect the castle and not let my friends spill beer on the carpets. I had no self-worth and very high self-belief. A lot of heroes, quote unquote, that go around saving everybody have that, right? They have no standards for self. And it's not till we get older and we realize, oh, I'm really just martyring myself. So you're resonating a lot with that. Okay. Yeah. So, and then you get older and you actually have standards for other people finally, even though you always had high standards for self at the expense of self. Because,
Yeah.
yep, awesome. Okay. So how do you build self-belief? Because in this 14-day challenge, you're going to need to build self-belief because this is either going to build you or crumble you. This is going to be constructive or destructive. For me, it would be constructive, but only because I learned how to build self-belief. So state, prove, self-assign. There was a website called Stumble Upon when I was in college back in 2007. And I thought it was the dumbest website ever, quite frankly, but it was kind of like website roulette, webcam roulette. And all my friends were doing it in the dorm room. And I remember thinking, what a giant waste of time. But I was a weirdo. Basically, what you'd do is you'd stumble upon other people doing funny stuff on a camera, sometimes gross stuff, sometimes funny stuff, that kind of thing. And I think that's how a lot of people live their life. They stumble upon friendships. They stumble upon jobs and careers. They don't engineer it in advance.
Mm.
And so state, prove, self-assign is, listen, I'm going to state in advance that I'm going to do this 14-day challenge. And then you prove to yourself that you can do it. You have to finish it. If you don't finish it, unconsciously and subconsciously, you teach yourself not to believe in yourself. So you have to state, I'm going to show up to one of these 14-day challenges. And then you have to prove to yourself that you're going to show up, meaning you have to keep the promise to yourself. If you had a friend who broke as many promises to you as you've broken to yourself, how much would you value that friendship?
Yeah, you don't, do you?
Yeah, you don't. And you wouldn't trust them.
Mm.
There'd be no trust there. You don't trust yourself to show up for yourself. When I say I've exercised every day for 2.25 years, what I'm really doing underneath that isn't to brag. I'm building self-belief. I'm building self-trust. I'm building self-respect. Right? And so eventually that compounds, and now you're the weirdo who just feels awesome about themselves in a world where most people are unfulfilled and hate themselves deep down. And I've been there. Okay, I've been there. So state, prove, self-assign. Once you show up, you have to self-assign it, which you won't do unless you stated it in advance. If you are drifting around, stumbling upon things, not designing things in advance, you don't self-assign. You don't say, hey, that was me. I did that. I decided to do it. I did it. And then I'm going to self-assign it to my own identity. And those people who you see that always win at everything, everyone think of someone who just wins at everything all the time. Eventually, they fail their way, but they win. They seem to win at everything. They have the Midas touch. Those people have so much self-belief because they just built self-efficacy, is what psychologists call it, where they just kept proving it over and over and over again, usually when no one's watching. It's what you're doing and who you are when no one's watching that builds real self-belief and real self-worth. And it's keeping those small promises, but you have to make a promise in order to keep it.
Yeah, I love it. That's definitely, I think that's a really nice way to, yeah, you've started off my 14-day challenge amazingly. So thank you. I think that it's so true that they're taking that action, deciding that you're going to do something and then taking the action is the most important thing. And I know, as you were just saying that at the end, it was like me putting this 14-day challenge together, and everyone told me not to do this 14-day challenge. They said, Carolyn, you're crazy. You're expecting so much so quickly, because I was putting together so many interviews at one time. But that's the way I am. I'm the person that goes, if I'm going to do it and I decide I'm going to do something, I always do it. And I think what you were just saying really resonates with me for that reason, because people say to me all the time, how do you succeed so much? How do you get so much done? And it really is that. I make a promise to myself and I say, I'm going to do something, and I get it done. And sometimes I didn't even finish high school. So for me, I'm the person that people would go, oh, I was just telling someone before, I was a hairdresser in my past life. And I actually had a client of mine. Where I had my salon was very successful people. It was a corporate area. I had one of my clients that I'd had for about 5 years by that stage. His daughter was studying to be a doctor. She was the same age as me. He said to me one day, oh, do you read, do you?
Whoa.
And I looked at him and I went, yeah, I read. It was just the most insulting thing. It was like trying to treat me like, and it was always so nice to me. Him and I got along, but it was like because his daughter is studying to be a doctor, and I was just the hairdresser. And I said to him, "You have no idea what I'm capable of." And like I was there going, so I'm used to it. I'm used to people thinking not much of me because like, oh, look at her, like she just looks good and that's it. She's a hairdresser.
Beautiful blonde.
Yeah, and then
Right? And I look like a Ken doll. I wasn't joking when I say it really helps my business career. Like, it's
it is. It's
brutal.
just
Yeah, yeah. I don't look the part. I mean, how many business owners are fit and like this? So,
exactly.
and again, poor us for being right. So that's the thing. People say, "Well, poor you. You're so good looking."
No, but we dedicate ourselves.
Yes, we're trying to say under that is that people mistreat us because they put us in a box and they don't see the mind. They see the face.
And we could have gone with that as well. I think that's the other thing is that we could have lived off that and just lived off hey, we're just make our looks the thing and that's it. But I think that's the thing is that I decided long, long time ago that I wanted to be successful for all the reasons. And I dedicate that doing this challenge took a lot of work. But to me, every single day that I woke up and I went, it doesn't matter what, I'm going to make sure that I finish recording these episodes and everything else in my business. And I think, I think that's the takeaway that everyone needs to take is that it does not matter if you think you cannot do something. If you have not tried, if you have not set that goal and tried to do it, you cannot say that you're not successful at it, or you cannot say that you're not capable of it, because it is amazing what people are capable of if they put their mind to it.
Caroline, the more you share your background, the more people will be so inspired by how much you've achieved because in their mind they're like, well, you were always so successful or whatever. And not that there's anything wrong on any level with being a hairdresser. That might have been super fulfilling for you. I don't know, right?
There was, yeah.
That's awesome. But the fact that you got bullied for a little bit of bullying, that was cruel. And that ignited in you, like, you know what? All right, I'm going to go prove it. There's something about that chip on the shoulder that people don't talk about. You better believe some of this type A was stepdad leaving, chip on my shoulder stuff. I tell my business partner this, and I'll be quick because I know we got to go. He and I both grew up without fathers. We didn't have male role models. His father, he didn't meet till he was 27. He left when he was born. He was raised by his mom and his Mima. My stepdad left at 14. My birth father passed away when I was 2. And I haven't seen him since. None of the extended family either. And so it creates this drive that might have started in a need for significance. It might have started there. It probably did. But eventually it can evolve into, and I said this to him. I said, dude, don't take off the chip. Just run the chip. Don't let the chip run you. That fire is in there. And sometimes it takes a bully to ignite it. I got bullied a lot when I was younger. Okay. You think I look young now? Right? I looked young when I was young. So you just use that, and that's the difference maker. And the truth is, and I'll end with this, you want to get through this 14-day challenge, you need to commit and you need to do it. I don't care what comes of it in the external results. Like even you're doing the 14-day challenge. I don't care if you get 1 million followers or 0. You have to do it for self-belief. You have to do it for self-worth and self-respect and self-trust. And yes, the truth is when you start to build self-belief, I thought people were going to like me more. It was the opposite. It was, you repel people who don't have self-belief, and you get bullied because people challenge you and try to see if it's real. And it's that whole thing. So, but at the end of the day, how do you feel about yourself when you're by yourself? That is built behind the scenes when no one's watching. That is built by setting and honoring promises you make to yourself. And if you start there and you don't stray from that, write it down somewhere, write it on a whiteboard where you see it every day. Keep the promises you make to yourself. You have to. If you can't do that, you're in so much trouble. And then you'll end up ego-driven and full of it like a lot of people, right? A lot of people are really full of it. They're not walking their talk. And if you walk your talk in your own self-talk, you're going to be off to the races, and you'll blow yourself away with what you're capable of long term. But it's going to be hard, and it's going to be brutal, and yes, socially it's the hardest in my opinion. But at the end of the day, you'll be fulfilled because you'll actually be proud of yourself.
Love it. Fantastic. Alan, you are fantastic. How can people get in touch with you if they want to know more? You've got a book coming out. You've got a lot of stuff going on. Tell us a little bit about that.
You're so sweet. So thank you for having me again. This is awesome. I hope that everyone on this journey, this is day one, goes and crushes it. At very least, you'll be more fulfilled. And if the world is filled with fulfilled people, I always say fulfilled people don't hurt people. So if you've been mistreated and people were cruel to you and you've been bullied like me, uh, they're just deeply unfulfilled people who don't like themselves. That's what it is. And if we can help people build this self-efficacy and self-belief and self-worth, I think the world becomes a better place. So where can people find me? We have a podcast called Next Level University. You mentioned that I was next level, or you said something about next level at the beginning, and I was like, that's awesome. So the idea of next level is build a bigger, better, brighter future. And it's self-improvement in your pocket from anywhere on the planet, completely free every single day. We do an episode every single day. Uh, Holistic self-improvement in your pocket. We're mentors in your pocket. We're trying to be the male role models we never had. And we want to be in your ears every day, helping you get 1% better per day. And then we have a website called nextleveluniverse.com. The podcast is Next Level University. The website's nextleveluniverse.com. And then you can email me, ALAN, at nextleveluniverse, spelled just like it sounds.com. But if you do email me, please just provide context, because obviously we all get a lot of spam.
Yes, fantastic. Alan, I'll put all those notes in there, all the links in the show notes for everyone, so then they can get in touch with you. And thank you so much for joining me. And for everyone watching, please keep watching the rest of the days. As Alan said, it's all about committing to it. So I look forward to seeing everyone in the following days. Thanks, Alan.
You're so very welcome. Thank you. And yes, continue with this. Do the full 14 days. You will be glad you did. It will be worth it, even though it might suck along the way.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Bye.